where I left off that last time when I did that last little joint about the white heaven, how we've been here, and a bunch of stuff has happened since then. You know, that's obviously come to my attention. But I laugh because I just think it's awkward that the inability for people to admit, okay, so I'll give you one. If they can call it white supremacy, I can call this white heaven. Right on? And if that's the case, I can explain, or I should be able to be shown or be explained to where this comes from. What up, y'all? What up? So, without further ado, I'm gonna pull up this website real quick about my guy, what's going on, Andre? I'm about to pull up this website real quick about my guy, Cyrus Schofield, and I just want to touch on him real fast, you know, because he, I'm not saying he's special, but he most definitely, his doctrine kind of set everything in stone. You get what I'm talking about? So, let me see if I can't find the same website that I got. I have a link saved, I just can't find it. There we go. The greatest hoax. I'm gonna pull up the page and share it with y'all right now. This is it can only be in the environment of white heaven. You could pull this off. You know, nowhere else. And there was no other time. I can't explain this to y'all. I can't stress it enough. This dude was an old man by the time he was doing this shit. You get me? So it wasn't like he was the same con artist that he was as a young man, right? One moment. Boy. And bring that down just a little bit. Here we go. The following is an excerpt from the Unified Conspiracy Theory. The information is intended to supplement the references to C.I. Schofield and Charlie Sample's The Greatest Hoax. To understand the hoax, the lies which we've all been born, both of the above linked articles are strongly recommended. Hold on, now we're going to get to The Greatest Hoax in a little bit, okay? The belief was injected into our Christian minds as babes that in the end times Jesus will return to reign on the earth for 1,000 years of peace, after which Satan once again will be released, which makes no sense at all anyway. Hold on, let me just go ahead and save sweetliberty.org. I'm pretty sure I had this saved before. I'd have got unsaved though. You know how that goes. Now we're not going to get too carried away in all this. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that down now. I'm gonna go back to it later. Oh my goodness. Well, am I? Ooh-wee. That hurt. Anyway, that really hurt, y'all. Okay. Stop presenting that. Just have something getting in my eye. Give me one moment to collect myself. Oh, for goodness. It hurt. So, understand that part of White Heaven's hoax, and I've been saying that White Heaven's only been around for 120 years, going on next year, maybe, right? 122, something like that. At the crescendo of the Industrial Revolution, right? At the beginning of the 20th century. That's when everything pretty much jumped off for these guys. Because before that, diseases were still tearing their asses up. And we got to go back to Charles Darwin real quick, because Darwinism really ushered in the age of eugenics. See, when people were picking up on what Darwin was laying down, there was... What you call a dog whistle now I don't know how you would say, like, talk between, like, people of a certain status or stature. Like, you had to talk, Right on, bro. I appreciate that. I just got back to y'all. Check this out. I got my book, White Trash, right here. It's amazing because we're going to read a couple things from it. But I need you guys to get this right here. The rapture that Cyrus Schofield lied about, it already happened. Okay? I need you to really understand what I'm talking about. What more could they get? What more could they get? So hold on. Jesus comes back, and then they get 1,000 more years of whatever they contend as peace, because they say that Satan has to be defeated again in this rhetoric, in this mindset. So how peaceful is it if you have an enemy lurking around? That's number one. Number two, and I'm just trying to paint out the environment. So the so-called rapture environment couldn't be any more peaceful than it is now for them. Because who attacks white people other than other white people? Outrageously. When they try to use these numbers about how blacks make whites a certain number of their victims, all these things are proximity hunters. Because when blacks do it to other black people, it's just because that's who they're around. So, do they talk about the Asians or the Hispanics that get, who become victims to whites or blacks or to themselves? No, because that doesn't matter to them. But here in White Heaven, you see, when the rapture first happened, I would have to go back to the preface of the transatlantic slave trade. We'd have to go that far back, and we'd have to talk about the environment that was being set up for the rapture to take place. And the rapture was and is, in my mind, the setting in of Jim Crow, the pounding of eugenics, right, down everyone's throat. Because this is what they did for a long time. They made people believe and think that that if they were born white, that they were better than everyone. Now I want you to understand this right here. I couldn't care less that they believed that. That actually doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that it was a white man, Gregor Mendel, who is he's the accredited father of modern genetics. Even though we know the father of genetics is the Most High, there need not even be a conversation about that. The entire point is this, is that it took a white man to do studies, and who, once again, where they coined the term dominant and recessive. So, this rapture that already took place, right, was literally right when they got rid of the mulattoes, or 20 years after that. I've already stressed to you guys before, the Civil War was only fought to thin the ranks and to make it to where the so-called carpetbaggers, aka the Jews, could stop filling their pockets without having to do anything. However, we have this environment that's created because you have laws that tell people that they're better than everyone, right? And plagues that says that it's okay to terrorize the people that we are deeming less than we said aren't even humans and don't have souls. I don't know how much more peaceful it could have been. The fear that black people lived in during the Jim Crow era, well, they were never that afraid ever. They've never been that afraid since. Never. Slaves weren't that terrified. Some of these slaves were buddy with their masters. You know what I mean? Like, some of these dudes cried when fucking slavery was abolished. You gotta really understand, White Heaven took off at a level and a junction that can't even really be acknowledged. For them to try to tell you that a rapture is going to take place and then they're going to kill Satan later on, after he's already been defeated, I guess. Well, who is Satan? Right? Do they vision you, black man, as this Satan character right now, whom they deal with and they have suppressed, right? Or do they call this Satan's world because rap and sports entertainers, all these other things that are influenced by African Americans, right, have permeated the land? See, the issue is this. White heaven has no rules, okay? It doesn't. And just like any other place, white heaven, they have to eat, they have to drink. So therefore, there is trash in white heaven, and their trash is white. Can you dig it? Look, this will never be a good place for you or for me. Any black man that'll try to lie to you to your face and say, hey, black man, all you gotta do is work really hard, and everything's gonna be all right. They're a fucking liar. I'm telling you, it's the truth. Watch this right here. This is from the book White Trash. I'm going to go back one page. No, I'm not. I'm just going to pick it up right here. And I'm going to carry myself away with what I know is the fact of white heaven. And the rapture already took place. It already took place. During the days of W.E.B. Du Bois is when white heaven, once again, the rapture had already, for them, you guys got to really get this. Like, they already won. They've already got theirs. They've already got theirs. Their welfare system is based on the coffers of what? If you really want to base it all down to what? Right, to black slavery. You got to really understand how this shit works. See, they want to call it white supremacy. No, this is their heaven. It will never get better for them, ever. Never. There is no rapture. It already happened. We're here now, in their heaven, aka Babylon, waiting for the walls to fall and the gates to burn. But they don't understand that. However, I'm picking up at the last paragraph of page 188, and I'm just going to read this. I'm just going to read this right here, right? The term redneck. And this is what they claim black people used to say. I'd rather be a nigger and plow old Beck than a white hillbilly with his long red neck. Hold on, stop. Now we know that's not the whole song. But in white heaven there is white trash. Right? And though white trash is spewed about everywhere, and though white trash is forced to have to lay down around with, close to, in proximity of the black people. The black heathen devil things. This is white heaven. I can't fucking stress it enough, Tom. If you don't want to believe that, that's on you. Alright? That's on you. You're wrong. What's up, Martin? These cats want to play with themselves in their head and mentally masturbate with the thought of, what's up, bruh? These people want to mentally masturbate with the thought that this isn't where we're at. Their junction already happened. When they were putting blacks on the boat, right, to come here, those were like literally cement pieces of a building, of a foundation, dog, to build white heaven. Like they were building it with slavery, okay? They didn't have it secured and totally like, we're in there, we're good. The decline of white heaven didn't really happen until the end of World War II, and I'll explain that in the next video. Because the fall of white heaven is what we're all waiting for. But I haven't had time to get around to all that. You see, people want to just hear what they want to hear, and they don't want to listen to the pertinent things that actually go with this. Follow me. This was the world of W.E.B. Du Bois. This was also the world of Theodore Roosevelt. The two men agreed on very little, and obviously not on evolutionary theory or the science of eugenics. Stop right there. Darwin and Gregor Mendel Now, the thing about Gregor Mendel is that there's no way he could have known that they were going to take his work after he died and then misrepresent it and misuse it and lie. Here's my question. Do white people really think that they have recessive genetics, or do they really believe that they have dominant genetics? See, black people already have curly hair. Can you dig that? But they think that mixed people who have hairs that are loose curls, they think that that happens because of them. But it's like, the absence of a person with curly hair, you could never have it. There would never be a gene mutation, none of that shit. It's impossible. I'm gonna do a thing in a couple days. You know, I'm putting it together right now. It's about heterozygosity. I'm not gonna go too far into it, but it's just about gene variation, in short. And what that has to do right now with how the rapture happened and why this is all important and what I'm talking about is that they're saying that two guys, Dubois, who's a mulatto, Roosevelt, right on, Teddy, speak softly, carry the big stick, the good neighbor policy guy, right, him. They didn't agree on shit. But what they did agree on was that it was better to be black than to be white trash in white heaven at this time. Understand this. Sharecroppers, right on, had to listen to things like this. They had to. Because what were they doing to black people? Beating them to death, raping their wives, terrorizing their children, right? The reason why most blacks moved up north was because of how they were treated during the fucking Jim Crow era. They don't ever talk about that. They make it seem as if blacks just were like, oh yeah, I want to leave. Because if that was the case, they would have left when they were first freed from bondage. However, because people, once again, do this mental masturbation where the mind fuck is so cold, they've really convinced themselves that we're not in a heaven that they created for themselves. This is a paradise for them. It's nothing short of that. When I hear people talk about the welfare system, welfare, can you dig that? That they try to put on black people. Do you know that 63% of the people who receive welfare in this country are white? Did you know that? And I bet you the number's actually higher. I'm sure that's a skewed number. I'm sure it's higher. When they invented welfare, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, younger cousin to Theodore Roosevelt, just in case you didn't know that, this man did not create welfare for blacks. That was a part of white heaven right there. And said, look, I'm going to tell you what Theodore Roosevelt essentially did. He sat there in his wheelchair and was like, you know what? These guys fought the Indians, oppressed the niggers. Why not? Why not give them something for free? Shit, they're sucking their fingers, eating good every day. They got fat money. Hell yeah, we can kick down to our little cronies. People don't understand. This environment is their heaven. Right on, bro. Right on. Big brother, I'm not here because I need people to what's the word? Entertain me, right? If they will entertain what I'm saying, but I would just rather than like you doing, you're listening, and you listen with the object of knowing what it is that this either applies to us or it doesn't. What I'm saying right now applies to black people. They don't want it to apply to them because they don't want to see like, all right, hey, if they never created welfare, right, they wouldn't have the excuse right now that all you blacks are on welfare. That wouldn't be either those black people would have literally woke up a long time ago and got their shit together, or they would have fell by the wayside. And the homeless population in this country would be robust. Robust. Little shanty villas everywhere. But that's not the case. The only blacks that were permitted Social Security at first were those with disabilities and the elderly. That's it. That's it. It took them fucking almost 40 years to make it to where they were going to give black women food, money, right on, and housing if you got rid of the black man. So long as you get rid of your foundation, we'll give this to you. That's how white heaven works, dog. Because what did they do in slavery when they got rid of the man? How do you think they mind fucked them back then, huh? When they used to sell the man off from the family, split the families up and stuff like that, right? Because the man is gonna work and he's gonna have to be okay. Is she gonna get over it? Sure. But will she fare the same without this man now? I think not. And it's the same mentality from back then, right now. Now, once again, I don't have the time to lay out how white heaven really works. I just don't have the time for that. Because then I would meet so much resistance. I would have to show people every little piece of information that I've ever laid my eyes on. And then people would be like, damn, okay, that does make a little sense. That makes a teensy-weensy bit of sense. But the fact of the matter is this right here. You have a system that has allowed for the main beneficiaries, almost the sole beneficiaries of it, to remain untouched by criticism. Do they criticize poor white trash for living in trailer parks? No, they don't. Those like these oh, they're just so downtrodden. And what? What? I haven't been able to find it in this book. There's a quote where the guy pretty much says that the white people had never been good at anything, right? Until the government implemented handouts. They became good at one thing, begging for handouts. That has been their modus operandi since they have been here. When they got here, they couldn't feed themselves. They begged those aboriginals and indigenous people to feed them. They begged those people on their hands and knees crying, pulling their little sickly looking children and their ugly wives. Look at my family, please feed us. Looking ass motherfuckers. And look how they did those people. Okay? The foundation to white heaven was paved in blood concrete stone. That's all it is, this whole place. It's built on blood. They are evil and wicked. And their rapture already happened. It took place right when they passed those racist ass Jim Crow laws. That's when white heaven kicked off all the fucking way. And I don't give a damn what they say, dog. You think they think you have a soul right now? You think they believe that you were actually maintaining soul constitution? You think that you really believe they think you're a fucking human? Listen, dog, they had hundreds of years to come to understanding and accepting you're not a man. You're not a human. And these were the lowest bottom feeder type motherfuckers that they fed this kind of shit to. So that way they felt justified in how they treated you. You gotta understand this. It's okay to treat them, however. They're not even human. Hell, your dog is more human than him. That rapture took place such a long time ago. And their 1,000 years is almost up. They're done. Now, I don't think people understand. He just picked the number of years, right? He just said, fuck it. Let me go with the good old nonsense of this is one heavenly day. One heavenly day is what it's going to take. When people don't believe that the Most High God actually created the earth in 7 24-hour cycles. Because that would be far more amazing than 7,000 years. However, see, once again, I was under that impression for a long time myself. But, when you come into really seeing things for what they are, you have to tell yourself the honest to God truth. And the honest to God truth is that we've been stuck in this place for such a long time that we have never realized we're in their heaven. We've never realized that they got raptured up here. Right on? They got raptured up here. Why do you think they really got serious after a while about who could get into the country, who could not? Even from European nations. Come on, man. Because this is white heaven. You can't just, you can buy your way into this motherfucker, right? But this is the problem that they're having now. People want to sneak their way in. They're not feeling that. But they don't realize that you force and still force an entire group to stay here. While the other ones you don't want to be in your heaven. shit is crazy. But people don't even see that. The best thing for them already happened. The rapture already happened. As Scribe would have said many moons ago, a long time ago, they think they're going to get raptured up to white heaven with Archie Bunker. Every time I think about that shit, I laugh. That's from years ago. That's from like 2015. Trust me. That is the truth. That is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. They think they're going to die, get resurrected, get pulled up into the sky or whatever, and then get to kick it for oh no, hold on, I lied. Stay on earth for 1,000 years, and then kick it, and then get pulled up to the sky, and then get to live in heaven forever. Wow! No, listen, no judgment. No judgment. And the reason why they can live like this is because of the fallacies within the Pauline doctrine, what is called Christianity. See, I can't get too carried away in trying to expose the French. The French could arguably be the most powerful nation on earth. And really nobody knows. I can't get too carried away in that right now. I gotta get back to what I'm talking about. These things have been happening for so long that unless you really see the clear history, the clear history from the descent from the mountains to the invasion of Rome, Greece, and all these other places that are Mediterranean, right? Can you dig it? To further down, to them getting repulsed, having to stay in the Mediterranean area, populating these areas so much so with their tainted bloodline that the people that were indigenous have left off their own land, many of them, and the few that stay are persecuted. A prime example of this is Yemen. A beautiful example of it. Let me go ahead and pull up this picture I have real quick. Of this Yemenese brother, man. And obviously he's got some type of admixture in his blood because of his hair, but you can clearly tell this dude comes from, black people blood. And there's no way that you can look at it and you just can't lie to yourself. Like, there's certain shit you can't front about. You know what I'm saying? And here it is right here. Come on. I don't want y'all to look at this damn thing he has on his face. It's a big ass fucking lesion. You know what I'm saying? Blow it up. Y'all see this brother, man? Hold on, let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Look at him. That's a black man. Okay? I don't know what you think he is. I don't know what you thought to think he was. That's a nigga. He shaves and all that. And you can tell. Look. This is what they've done. Okay? See, white heaven here allows for the other white bastards in the Middle East to bomb this country. No problem. That's why he has that lesion on his face, because he can't get proper medical attention. Can you dig it? That's why. That's a black man, though, y'all, that you guys are looking at. This is how white heaven works. They want you to not understand the full reach and full grasp of what it is that they affect every day. Like I said, their rapture already happened. Already happened. It already took fucking place. I don't know what people want to believe. Let me go ahead and pick up my white trash book real quick, though, and let me read a couple of things that I actually wanted to go back over. These are just things that I'm pretty sure most of it I've read most of this, to you guys, as far as like things that I've shared out of this book. But they really do have a lot to do with how they built white heaven and how they plan to keep their power. Their rapture owns, once again, let me just pull up the greatest hoax real fast, and then I'm going to show y'all what I'm talking about. Because for me, as a black person, see how anyone could try to tell me or you, hey, yo, you're not living in an environment that they created for themselves. That's ludicrous, dog. You feel me? Like, how are we not living somewhere where they created it? You know what I'm saying? Coconut oil. Anyway, how are we not in an environment that they created? You know what I mean? How not? How are we in anywhere else other than their heaven? Will somebody tell me that? Will somebody explain that to this young man? Because I'd like to know. I'd like to know if you don't think that being able to hang black people, have barbecues around their dead bodies, picnics around their dead bodies, and all sorts of types of things, right? One thing well, lynchings happen sporadically, and then they happen organized, like, all right? To be able to kill a black person with impunity was kind of the order of the day, you know? And a lot of people don't want to hear this, but, you know, there's a lot of white people who, for a long time, you know, felt like you had to collect a scalp to be a real man, you know? So a lot of these black boys that used to come up missing way back in the day, little black girls, really imagine what happened, you know? In white heaven, listen, in white heaven, they bombed a church full of women and children, killed all kinds of folks. And you're telling me right now that these dudes is cool? That this isn't their heaven? Only where you reign supreme. I guess if that's what you want to call supremacy. Second address? I've read it. I haven't read it in a while, so I'd have to actually check it out. But I like Esdras though, you know, just based on what I can remember. What's up, sister? So, just check me out, y'all. This shit is crazy. So, I want to read something to you real quick, right? And this might be, one second. Here we go. Bam. Let me show you how white heaven really works. As this is page 89. This is the second paragraph, and we'll read until I think I've got my fill. As early as 1775, landless tenants in Ludham County, Virginia, voiced a complaint that was common across the sprawling colony. There was no inducement for the poor man to fight, for he had nothing to defend. Many poor white men rebelled against recruitment strategies, protested the exemptions given to the overseers of rich planters, and were disappointed with the paltry pay, the low pay. Such resistance led to the adoption of desperate measures. In 1780, Virginia assemblymen agreed to grant white enlistees the bounty of a slave as payment for the willingness to serve until the end of the war. Can you dig this shit? I want y'all to really get what I'm talking about. This is white heaven in the making. In 1780, Virginia assemblymen agreed to grant white enlistees the bounty of a slave, which would have been like $400, $500, depending on how expensive the slave was, which was a lot of money back then, for their willingness to serve until the end of the war, maybe even $200-300. But you know, to get a good slave, you wanted to spend $400 or $500, $600-700 really to get you a real good buck. Anyway, here was an instant bump up in the social ladder. Here was the social transfer of wealth and status from the upper to the lower class. But even this gruesome offer wasn't tempting enough. Did you hear that? Gruesome offer. Called it gruesome to offer a person a slave. Why is that gruesome? Why is that wrong if you own them? If you own them, why is that wrong? Once again, I want y'all to really get the whole mentality of how they've been thinking. Because you took the bait. That's why it was gruesome. Okay? That's why. Had it worked out, it wouldn't have been a gruesome offer, it would have been an epic offer. She would have reworded it all together. But because that's not how it worked, it was worded like that. Third paragraph. I'm going to skip the other stuff. There were other attempts to mollify poor white farmers. In drafting a new constitution in 1776, Virginia rebels embraced freehold suffrage. Adult white men who were 21, who had freeholds of 25 acres of cultivated land, were awarded the right to vote. Yet the same revolutionaries were stingy when it came to redressing landlessness and poverty. Stop right there. They're saying that because everybody wasn't poor. You guys got to really get this. I had to go way back and then I had to skip all through this book to show you how most of the white people that came here were not escaping religious persecution. Most of them that came here, and I'll get back to the book in a second. Most of them that came here were offered land, free land, plush land, okay? When they got here, they realized that they didn't actually have the aptitude of husbandry, which is the ability to turn the land for profitable means by the manifestation of produce and the likes. My point to all this is this. You have people who complain about how their land was totally unfit. Question is this. How much more unfit do you think the land was, I don't know, 200 years ago? 300 years ago? Do you get what I'm saying right now? So people were selling their land for shots of whiskey. Their white heaven has been set up long before we were ever born. Once again, the concrete building blocks of this thing were made out of blood. All those people that you just heard about just then, they pissed away the opportunity to have a slave. Right. They're like, fuck it, I don't want a slave that bad. I don't want a slave so bad that I'll serve for it. I don't want a slave so bad that I'll work for it. Right. People have to understand there were rich merchants that came here with the ability to buy hundreds of slaves. And will. These are the same carpetbaggers who lived in the South. Who you call the Jewish people today. White heaven has been good to them. Should have pretty much been, I don't know the difference. They look like white people to me anyway. They've been enjoying the fruits of the labor of others. White heaven was built on some bullshit. Right on? Straight up bullshit. The ideals of it. Because if you tell people, if you work hard, we'll reward you, then you get nothing, right? Well, obviously they're not going to work. But if we offer you something, an enticement, when have they ever said, hey, black men, for every guy that is selling drugs right now, if you come to the freaking work fair or whatever job fair, right? We promise we will get you in work tomorrow. It doesn't happen like that, okay? These are people whose ancestors had been here for 100 years and squandered away their land. Right, lost their land, gambling it away. How do you feel bad for somebody like that? But once again, though, we skipped. That was 1775. Y'all 1776. So you skip 130 years later, right? And all that finally pans itself out, and we've taken the money, or we killed off the slave machine. Didn't matter because the damage had been done. The ability to buy their way into anything through just the means of finance, or to bully their way into it, I should say, just through the finances alone, that's huge, Their rapture happened. It already took place. But their rapture took hundreds of years to complete for white heaven to really be where it's at. Their rapture took hundreds of years for it to be completed. And there was a painful process for them. Because what they learned before white heaven could be initiated was that we can't let the half-breeds and the quarter-breeds take our places. So what did they do? Jews and the Anglos alike, they planned a dummy war. What's that war called? The Civil War. Come on now. I want y'all to think about this. Why couldn't Abraham Lincoln have just made the Emancipation Proclamation anyway? Just on his own. Why? I want y'all to really think about that. Like, he wrote it down. It's not like the Emancipation Proclamation is a physical action, y'all. It's just fucking words. That's it. So what stopped him from writing it down before? No thing. That's the answer. And until people grasp these things, these concepts, that even he, a quadroon or a mulatto himself in disguise, knew and understood that the balance of power could possibly be in people who were like his hands one day. This is why after the Civil War, he tried to enact what they call the Lincoln Laws, which were translated to what you now know as the Civil Rights. The reason why this is so important is because, once again, they lost, they being the mulattoes, the quadroons, right? They lost their position in this society. They were really powerful. I don't think people understand how much clout and how much sway these guys had. They had enormous clout. That's why they had to get rid of them. And you plan a war, and this is how you do it, because, okay, so he's a white slave owner, right? He paid to not have his self conscripted. But can he afford that for his 2 nigger sons? Can he afford to pay for them too, and his 3 white daughters? Or, I mean, not white daughters, but his 3 white sons and his 2 white daughters, who we don't have to worry about them, but we might conscript them as nurses, because we know how he gets down. So y'all guys really got to understand how they worked all this shit out. They planned it. And then it was the worst thing ever. A bunch of Klay Thompsons laid out all over the place. And I don't mean 6'7" type dudes. I mean dudes who could pass for a white person if they so chose to. And this is what happened. After they did that, after they laid the final foundation, that was the final foundation to white heaven. That was it. That was what they needed. And then once they did that, people are like, you can't prove any of this. It's in the writing of history. You have fools who will tell you that it's over foreign speculation. Do you know how many times America was going to sell land to a foreign country before Lincoln? Get the fuck out of here. That's nonsense. That is nonsense. It is the most erroneous thing I've ever heard. They killed Lincoln because 100 years later, his plan of what he wanted to do anyway was going to come forth. Can't let him do it now. We just killed all the mulattoes. We just got rid of who knows how many of them. Who knows how many quadroons we just killed off. And he wants to make it to where essentially these blacks will be on equal par status as us? White heaven. Let me tell y'all something. Let me just keep it funky and keep it 1,000. White heaven wasn't so white men could rape black women. They were doing, they still do that. White heaven was so that way they could keep white women away from black men. Okay? That was the whole point of the Jim Crow shit. That's the whole point of eugenics. That's the whole point of a lot of this stuff. Is that they didn't want their buffer, who are women, and the reason why the women are the buffer is because they have children. And as long as she's healthy and of childbearing age, right, she's a potential asset for us and the white people. So when she goes and gives children to this black guy, right, she fucks up the plan. People don't understand how predisposed so many of these white women are and were to giving children to these black guys. It's crazy. So when you talk about Jim Crow, who did that really affect? Black men. Right. Because tell me a time when white men hadn't been giving a black woman a baby who was married to somebody else. Tell me when in this country that hadn't been taking place, and then I'll shut my mouth. Right. But even back in the slavery days, some of those white slave owners didn't play that shit when their daughters or their wife or whoever would do some crazy shit, be the unthinkable and get pregnant by one of these niggas. He might kill the bitch while she's pregnant. He might wait till the baby's born, torture the baby, kill the bitch, then kill the nigga. He might kill the black. And there's so many different ways that he could have played this shit out. These sick motherfuckers. So I'm not gonna pinpoint any one thing. You do that in your own imagination. My point is this right here. When are black people gonna realize that the best of white heaven has already happened? It's on a decline. It's on a steady decline. Steady. All you have to do is be smart. It's still white heaven. Okay? It's still white heaven. Babylon is still in full effect. That is what this part of Babylon is. It is white heaven because it would never be like this over there in Europe. Ever. It would never. Why do you think the Brits live on that little ass island with the hopes of being able to seeing what's coming before it comes to them? Right. Because they don't want to be anywhere where they can be overran immediately. They came here and tell you that they turned over the land and did this to the land and did that to the land. They ruined the land. The land used to produce natural goods. They ruined it by cutting stuff down that they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Once again, laying the foundation for white heaven though, so they didn't care. And they still don't care. Because they can go to the grocery store, the grocery market, right on. They can get online, whatever you want to call that, the internet, right? That living entity that it is. And shop on Amazon, eBay, and wherever else, right? And everything is suited and tailored for them. Everything. You may be you are a tertiary benefactor of this system. If the servant lives in the castle, yes, they're a servant, but they still live in the castle. Right. So everyone outside of the castle is envious of the servant. So people hate you because you live here and they think that you have reaped the benefits of something that you don't deserve, but you built it all. Once again, this is what I'm talking about right now. Their rapture already happened. They think you're the criminal, you're the crook, you're the bad guy. They think that they have to be saved from you, that you've taken from them what it is that they worked so hard to establish. Their rapture already took place. The dude who told him that was a known con man, and a convicted felon. Do you know who his backers were? Jewish people. The same carpetbaggers, the same dirty bastards who had the ability to buy blacks in bulk when slavery first started. This is why the English white man is always like, I didn't own no fucking slaves. Because when their family first got here, they were only given free land. Right. You gotta understand, only so many of those white guys had the mind back then to work together. Like, fuck it, let your land go to nothing. Come work my land with me because it's easier to work. And then we will both benefit from this. There were white people who did stuff like that. This is why those guys can say, well, we've worked since we got here. Then there's the other ones that we see who are, once again, the sole beneficiaries of the welfare system. You know, the welfare queens, kings, princes, and princesses. Dukes and jesters of the welfare system. And they act like they're not, but they are. A lot of you probably didn't know this. Washington State, population of almost 8 million, has the most people, right on, as far as the ratio of the population is concerned, on EBT. Some 2 million people, some 1/4 of the state are on EBT. Now you guys gotta understand something. It's 80% white in the state. So if 80% of the people are white, by the numbers of the 2 million, how many of them do you think, right, do you start to see what I'm saying right now? Do you get what I'm getting at? This is their heaven. They benefit off this stuff. And because you get a little piece, you get little crumbs of it, they start crying and complaining. If black people were unable to get anything from the welfare system, it would be a totally different story. This would be fucking white heaven all the way. You know what I mean? And you would have no reprieve. You would be poor, homeless, or you would do horrendous crimes to support yourself if you ever found yourself in motherfucking a rock and a hard place. That's a fact. These people are so evil that they have black folks believing and thinking, I don't know where they get this from, but they have black folks believing and thinking that there's a power shift coming in this country for them. It's not. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. Black people, in this land, you'll never run shit. Ever. Ever. There's too many other groups that already have vested interests to oppose you in white heaven, who may not be white people, but some of them operate like white people because they want to be white people. And sometimes these people look just like you and I. So you can't win on that level. It's impossible. All you can do in white heaven, I'm not saying is look at the ground and fucking keep your head down, but for sure, you gotta act like you didn't see that. Right on? You gotta act like you just didn't see that this day. And the only time you can really defend yourself in this place is when it's absolutely necessary, or when you know that you're not going to be held accountable for something that anybody else would not be held accountable. That's it. So if you know, I don't give a fuck what they say they would do, what they claim. So long as they don't put their nasty little phalanges on you, it's all good. Brother, I think most black people are like-minded. Most black men especially, even across the board of age. I just think that we get to the level where we've all been accosted to a certain degree. So my level of jadedness in a certain area is not as high as yours, and vice versa. And people don't have the ability to say, okay, they've experienced this, and I need to acknowledge that. You know, the acknowledgement of another person's experience is normally how you find the common ground to realize you're more like-minded and more alike than you are not alike. You know? And this is just one of those things where, once again, in white heaven, they will make us believe that we don't think the same. There's people who will tell you that they don't believe in God, but they pray every day. How that work? How does that work out? Black people I'm talking about right now. They'll tell you right to your face, I don't believe in no God. But they go home and pray. Pray. So you don't believe what you pray, huh? And I'm not saying that not praying and believing is worse, but it's the same thing. So you never pray, but you believe. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. A person's faith is still there. They just don't want to apply it in the fullness of it. Because if I apply this completely and wholeheartedly, that means that there's things that I have to accept. I accept that if I'm in white heaven as a black man, looking the way that I look, my ancestors did something against the creator of everything. I know this. Let me read something to y'all real quick. Let me find my... Bam. So we're going to go to the book of the Romans, chapter 7, I want to say. And this is just real bad. I can't stress this stuff enough. This guy pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, and he got away with it. You know? I mean, what can I say? You know, he did that. So, who am I to really, you know, I mean, I could get pissy, but that'll never change anything. Let me read to y'all where white heaven gets its understanding. If you don't believe me, compare what I'm about to read to you to how they treat you every day. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God. Verse 22 of Romans chapter 11. On them, the Israelites, which fell severity, semicolon, but toward thee, the Gentiles, and those that are not Israelites, goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Hold on, stop right there. Do you know what his goodness is? Is to spoil the Israelites and to continue to be a trap and snare unto them. Hold on, let's keep it pushing. And this is their rapture already taking place. Come on. Because they're in the goodness of what has happened to them. Otherwise, thou shalt be cut off. So if they don't do that, if they're not a trap and a snare, if they're not spoiling us, right? All the good shit that they have is done. Think about why there's so many poor black people. Think about why there's some of the things that they do in black neighborhoods. Like predatory lending happens way more to black people than people believe. Way more. Anyway, I'm not even gonna get carried away with that. I'm not even gonna get carried away. Let me finish this real quick, and then I'm going to go back to that. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. Okay, there we go. So, when it's talking about this right here, this is multi-pronged. I know Paul's talking about the Israelites. Okay, I need to go ahead and distinguish that here. I know he's talking about the Israelites. But he could actually really truly just be talking about the Gentiles. Right? If they abide not still, so if they don't stay still in unbelief, they get out of that, shall be grafted in. Hold on. Colons. For God is able to graft them in again. Now, if Paul is talking about the Israelites, he's talking about them being cut off from his love and then being reaccepted back to him. But if he's not, and he's talking about Gentiles, okay, he's talking about people who come from the first bloodline, not the Adamite bloodline. And he's talking about those people being able to be made into what they truly were before. I want y'all to really get this right here for a second. Aboriginals that were indigenous to America, New Zealand, Australia, and a couple other places that look very much like black people in a lot of ways, but aren't black people, those, I cannot stress this enough, they are the first man creation. They are the first man creation. A lot of the people that were considered Gentiles way back then, which is why they look black, way back then, were mixed with these people's blood. I can't stress that. I really can't stress that to y'all enough. You know, nobody has to believe that. That is the truth. One moment. Verse 24. For if thou were cut off of the olive tree, which is wild by nature. So he's saying that for if you were cut off the olive tree, which is wild by nature. Hold on. He's talking about the Gentiles now. He's saying that olive trees are wild by nature. They grow everywhere, right? Hold on. And were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree. That doesn't even make sense. Why is a wild olive tree not good? And what would be this olive tree that they're being grafted into that is good by nature? Right. He's talking about blood mixing right now. See, Paul wants white heaven now, because it's beyond Paul now. White heaven would love to get all the benefits physically and spiritually of being so-called black, but none of the curses. Not one of those curses. You see how sick that is? Keeping it pushing. How much more shall these, which be natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? Stop. Makes no sense that he just said that. Absolutely none. But this relates to white heaven, all in all. And the rapture that I'm saying already took place. They've had peace here for a long time. for a long time. The only people they're at war with in this country are each other. That's it. I can't stress this shit enough. They are not, you will never see them at war with another group. Because they have the means. White people have the means, if they wanted to just do evil shit. If they wanted to, in this land. Who would stop them? I want y'all to really think about this right now. If every white person in America woke up tomorrow just killing motherfuckers, who's gonna stop them other than the other white people? You can fight back, sure, and stay alive, but who's going to stop them? Right. The rapture that already fucking took place. It been happened. Such a long time ago, I can't stress it. My beef is not the fact that we're in white heaven once again. My beef is the fact that we're in white heaven and people don't think that we're in white heaven. They want to compare other countries to this in particular branch of what's going on. And no other place has it like this. When there are migrants who live in the Middle East, go on the thousands of miles trek to get to China, I'll believe what you guys are saying because there's Chinese Muslims. I'll believe that kind of shit. It's not going to happen. They're not against anyone other than, I can't stress it enough, themselves. They're not at war with nobody. They haven't been for a long time. Since 1889, when Washington became a ratified state, the last of the 48 contingent states, they haven't had to fight anybody, really. A couple of, rebellions here, small ones. Whatever, and a riot here, and a riot there. Whatever. Once again, are black people gonna picket signs and say, hey, we want justice for all those Jim Crow murders? We want to retrograde that and then impose those crimes on their families for being accomplices? Right? Make it and then attack from an angle that it's the tacit understanding that all these people shared these horrendous acts that they committed throughout their family, things that were told to be kept a secret, shit like that. No, they're not going to do that. Okay? They're not going to because they're in white heaven. And whether they want to admit it or not, they know that if they did something like that, it's the end. It's the end. It's Jim Crow, whatever you want to call it, that shit's coming right back. Coming right back. People are like, the Jim Crow days are on its way back. It's not on its way back yet. Because black people haven't resisted. When you resist, and there will be resistance from some of these niggas in the future, then you can look forward to something like that kicking off. Close to it, not exactly the same. But that might be the environment needed to make black people realize that we need to be saved. Because, somebody just crushed it just there. This dude just crushed it just there, y'all. This dude just crushed his car just there. This dude crushed this shit just there, y'all. This is crazy. Anyhow, my point is this. What are we going to do? Right on? What are we going to do? As I'm talking about white heaven, I'm listening to it right now, right? I hope you guys can hear this dude yelling fuck. Right on? Love it. Loves it. Loves it. White heaven don't get no realer than that. And there's two white guys out there going through that. Yes, laugh out loud. Come on. I'm just being 1,000 with y'all, man. See, this is, look. That couldn't have been better time for there to be a car accident as long as going through all these, car collision, whatever. It couldn't have been better time. That couldn't have been better. That couldn't have been better. However, let me get to these. Is there another verse in there? Yes. Bam. Here we go. Verse 25. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written. And there shall come a deliverer, and there shall come out of Sion the deliverer, and shall turn away the ungodliness from Jacob. Stop right there, y'all. What makes you think that he's not talking about what I just said to y'all? Huh? But they're blind in their own conceits right now. So this is why they're going to lose, the way that they're going to lose. Right on? Because they've already given too much stock and equity to things that don't matter. You and I, my friends, just have to stay alive. We have to stay alive. People, their rapture already happened. We are literally waiting for their time to be fulfilled. That's it. That's it. We're literally waiting for their time to be fulfilled. We're not waiting for nothing else. Does that make sense? We don't need anything else from you. We don't need nothing else. They've done all that they can do. Do your part now, black man, black woman. Do your part. Are you going to be wise in your own counsels? like this guy Paul. Paul would tell them not to do that, but yet he's wise in his own counsel. Hilarious. Sometimes when I read the book of the Maccabees, and I got some stuff coming for y'all tomorrow about that, I had read so far into it that I seen that I can do a little spin-off. There's a part, I want to say in chapter 8, maybe even chapter 7, because it's like a chapter before Judas gets killed. And I want to show you guys how the Romans were able first to get their foothold into Jerusalem, and then secondly, how this caravan, right, is something very similar to what Judas Maccabeus did, and how the situation with Judas Maccabeus, I felt like he was unjustified. You know what I mean? Totally unjustified for what he tried to pull. But that's my opinion, and I'll read it to you guys, and then it'll be in a spiritual gumbo format. I didn't forget about those. Like I said, I read that stuff, had a lot of stuff going on, blah 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 blah, and this has been on my mind all week. I didn't do the thing last night. I apologize for that because I was freaking beat as hell when I got home. So I was like, forget it. I'll just set this thing out for tomorrow. Talk about it tomorrow. Because I don't think people, everybody's looking for this super uber spiritual explanation. And I'm like, no, it's fucking simple, dog. Their rapture, Jesus coming, their Savior coming, came in the form of a damn law that allowed them to treat the only other subgroup of people in this country that were here in large enough numbers for them to care about, and the only one that they had extensive history with, like the nothing they had already been treating them like. I want y'all to think about that for a moment. They treated people during the Jim Crow era, they treated those blacks, right, worse than they treated slaves. Openly. I want y'all to really get that. They did this openly. When's the last time you ever heard of somebody just getting dragged out their house? Fuck the middle of the night, middle of the day, broad daylight. Everybody's seen it. Did nobody do nothing? But watch. When's the last time you heard of some shit like that, y'all? Why would they do that to people? Right. What up? What up? But why would they do that, though? You get what I'm saying? Like, they never did that to the slaves. Do you know when they used to whoop a slave's ass? Yeah, it might have been some petty shit. But a real slave owner, one who had a large plantation, his disciplinary shit was like, you can't kill them and you can't make it to where they can't work. I need them to work. If they did something that was that bad, we're killing them. Lynch them, hang them, whatever, shoot them, let everybody see their dead body for a couple days, and then throw their ass out. Let the fucking wolves have them. People don't want to hear this because it's obviously you have to then focus on what didn't happen in this country. You know what I mean? You have to focus on things that really don't matter. You know, things that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Superficial. You know. The one thing I do agree with freaking Professor Black on is that these lynchings didn't take place in the middle of the night. Some of them, sure. Some people got hung at night. But I would dare to say that most lynchings happen in the middle of the day. When everybody was awake. So they could see it happen. And there's nothing like, let's say, going to go get a successful black man who has a wife that you want to fuck anyway, and killing him, and then they're going to go get the lady later on. There ain't nothing. Once again, y'all don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear what it is. That's what it is, okay? Right? That's white heaven at its finest. At its finest. You didn't have to do that when they were slaves. They could just go in there and take the woman. There was no fight. A successful slave? What is that? What is that? Please. Black Wall Street, man, is an excellent example, bro. They really downplay. What happened in the Black Wall Street. Okay? They really downplay that shit. You know. They make it to where it's like they only listen, if you let them tell it, they only burned up a whole fucking city. They only burned it up. What's the big deal? Plenty of cities got burned down. Wow! Do you hear that logic? What's the big deal? That's the kind of shit we're dealing with, y'all. Those are the monsters that we're dealing with. Them people. Nobody wants to hear that. That's uncomfortable to listen to. You know? And then let's just talk about how it was for black children in white heaven growing up. I read this book, and I read a couple of the other books in the series, but one of the books was called Let the Circle Be Unbroken. And it was part of this really long series about black people and their suffering in this country. And in this in particular book, Let the Circle Be Unbroken, it focuses on, yeah, yes they did, bro, men, women, and children. Men, women, children. Fuck it, dogs, cats, too. I don't mean to sound sick, y'all, but I'm just saying that's how it went. But, the whole point is this right here, and I'm going to get back to what I was saying. In the book, Let the Circle Be Unbroken, what they do is this, is wrong. And I'm going to come back to Black Wall Street. what they do is this, though. They point out how, 12 and 13-year-old boys used to have a couple of white friends. And there was this boy named TJ in the book, right? He was 14 years old. I'll never forget it. I will never forget this book, y'all. I was 10 when I read it. And TJ was 14. And I remember reading how TJ had these two white friends, right? And both of them went to go rob this older white man. Now, during the robbery, TJ's outside. The struggle ensues. The white man that owns the shop that the white boys are robbing has a heart attack and dies. Now, they steal this pearl gun, right? Pearl handle gun. The young man is accused of murder. The white boys plant the gun on him and all this other shit, but he's later on in the book, after a lengthy trial, even though the white boys admit what they done. I want you to listen to this. The book points out something that virtually probably never happened. It probably happened once. They have this moment where the white boys say, yeah, we done it. We done it. And they still hang the boy. They hung him. They killed him. They did that to so many young black men. Young black. I mean, Emmett Till is a prime example, but he's at the tapering end of them not being almost able to do that shit anymore. I just get so sad about it. I don't know what else to do but to get sad about it. I think about Black Wall Street. Like Brother Smith said, killed damn near every. I want y'all to really think about this for a moment. You're in a small town, right? A small little strip, but it's popping. And because of hatred and jealousy. Now I want y'all really to understand. If the Black Wall Street had existed during the Great Depression, black people would be in a much different financial position right now. They wouldn't be where they're at. They would be so far ahead. But in an inconclusive theory, but it makes more sense than not. Sure, there was a jealousy factor and all that stuff that plays into to the Wall Street thing, Black Wall Street. But in white heaven, we have to keep this in mind. They knew what Paul already said. I can't stress this to y'all enough. By the time the Jim Crow laws were passed, the Rapture doctrine was, being pushed in every church all over the country. The only people who didn't accept that kind of stuff were like Greek Orthodox. You get what I'm saying? And obviously the Jews. But the Rapture doctrine, right, made it to where they're like, man, I get to do whatever I want to here to these blacks. Because of what? There are only well, not even 2/3, 3/5. You're 60% of a human. 60. Whopping 60. Wanted to say 2/3, but we're not. Damn, the code. So when you're 3/5 of a human, and they don't think you have souls, right, they are pretty damn sure that anything they do to you is okay. Right. People can't accept that. It's fine. I love it. Their inability to see that they're worthless to these white people even now, no matter how much value they give you, you're still worthless to them, you're still not shit to them, they'll never understand it. It's okay. Black people don't care because they're making their 35, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100K a year, whatever. Maybe more exceptional than that, maybe, $250,000 up a year. So they can't hear it, Bro, that happened in the past. Black Wall Street wasn't even 100 years ago, dog. fuck are they talking about? This is white heaven. And the rapture for these dirty bastards are to the long time. Right, we're living in their rapture. Their man-made rapture. Fuck out of here. I'm tired of this shit. You know what I mean? I'm just sick and fed up of the fact that black people really believe that this isn't an engine for them. You know, they want to tell you that, no, man, you can still do something here. It's like, no, bro, what you can do is try to get enough to stay alive, dog. Right on? All these black dudes with insatiable appetites for business are almost always the same black dudes that get fucked up. Almost always. Almost always. While they talk about Pookie and Ray Ray, this, that, and the other, they're the successful black dudes, semi-successful ones, be the ones who are getting fucked up, and you don't hear about it on the news. Right. Right. Because they have just enough pull, just enough leeway, talking about white heaven, to keep that shit from going where it could have went. I'm going to share something with y'all about white heaven, and then I'm going to get ready to be done. So the other day, I'm working at the Seahawks game. Obviously, you guys know I don't work in the stadium. I work quite a distance from there. Not too far, but far enough. But there's this gentleman that I'm pretty sure I've told y'all about him before. He's a retired colonel from the Army, and we were talking, and he asked me, he's like, "Did you vote?" I said, "No, I don't vote." And he's like, "Oh, you need to go out and vote." And I was like, "No, no, no." And me and him, we have a rapport, so, you know, I was like, you know, you telling me to vote is like me telling you to grow your beard. You know, you're not going to do it. And he's like, okay. He took that. Then he starts to talk about his father. His father's retired 2-star general from the Army. And he was telling me how his father was at a spot down there in Georgia. And he was getting ready to go cast his ballot. And when he goes up there and he's pulling out his identification, the lady doesn't accept his Georgia state ID, his driver's license. I'm all right, that's fine. He pulls out his retiree ID from the military, right? That says Major General on it. Lady says, still not accepted. There was a small commotion made about his ability to be able to vote. Manager comes forward, you know, or the balloter person. After a lengthy conversation, they pretty much say, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and cast your ballot. But at that point, he's so upset. He's like, you know what? Fuck that. I want y'all to call the Attorney General's office of the state, and I want you guys to get somebody down here right now, right? And they try to talk him out of that. He said, look, the only person who outranks me or is even close to my rank in this state is the governor. You know what I'm saying? He said, so please, go ahead, call the Attorney General's office and get somebody sent down here. And the result of it was that these two ladies both lost their jobs right then and there on the spot. You know, this has happened a couple days ago. Now, of course, this didn't make it to CNN. Of course, this didn't make it to the news. You know what I mean? But this did happen, you know. And this is one of those things. This man is a retired Army general, 2-star general. He could have only been a brigadier general. I don't give a fuck. He's a major general from the Army, and his credentials were questioned. Wow, this is white heaven. Even though he served this country and made it to a status that many white officers will never get to, let alone a black one. Come on now. Come on now. Let me read what my big brother said. I think the biggest fear the Caucasians have is the so-called black people were to reunite the entire Black Wall Street, Rosewood, and so on. This is what I believe that they fear the most. Bro, they don't fear that. They want you to do that, because then that means you're still invested in their system. They don't want you to divest from their system. Can you dig it, dog? Black Wall Street was during the time where they could totally accost you, totally beat you down. They wish there was a Black Wall Street now. They wish there was. They wish there was. Because then black people couldn't say something like, we're downtrodden, we're poor, and we're oppressed. They realized almost 100 years later, that was a fatal mistake. Fatal mistake. The bombing and the firebombing of Black Wall Street, the murder of those people, biggest mistake white heaven ever made. As far as keeping the wool over the black people's eyes. Because they don't fear you having money, dog. That's what they want you to have. They want you to be invested in America. Right. I'm not invested in this country, my nigga. I'm not invested into another Black Wall Street, a Rosewood, none of that. I don't want none of that shit with these people. Nothing. I want what my God promised his people, dog. That's it. If I can't get that, I don't want shit. I don't want nothing from this. They don't owe me shit. They don't owe me shit. What is owed to me, they're not willing to give. So therefore, they don't owe me nothing. Come that day, if I'm still alive and kicking it, I'll take what's owed to me. That's the difference, black people. You gotta totally divest yourself from this environment. Get de-invested. Get totally uninvested from this shit. Withdraw all your energy capita from this motherfucker. Okay? Every last ounce of it. Because they are afraid of anything that we do that has to do with investing in this country. LAR movement the other day made an excellent video talking about how black men haven't they've never come off of, we've never benefited off of any of the shit that we created, right? But what he said was a surprise to me because the first thing I really didn't know. I didn't know that it was a black man that actually invented the cartridge that the video game was held on. I did not know that, right? But like he pointed out, yet this is an industry that they notoriously keep black people out of. Notoriously. Yet you're the only reason why this shit is here. So all I'm saying is that they don't care if you keep helping them maintain their power. Because all they're going to do is use that as a catalyst to saying, okay, you see, black people, you got something to look forward to. You got a Wall Street, right? You got another Black Wall Street, Black Wall Street 2.0. What would that do for us? But make us believe that we could really be equal to the devil? I don't want to be the devil's equal. I don't want to be in white heaven anymore. They don't have to pay for the blood spilled. I don't want to be here. Those white people were jealous. They weren't in fear, they were jealous. That when they came home from World War I, those blacks who survived those vicious trenches, okay, they came home and some of them had family in Oklahoma and went home to making money right away. That's what they're pissed off about, okay? That's what they're so fucking antsy about. They saw where aviation was going. If a black aviation company was able to be here right now, it's the possibilities are endless. And then once again, maybe black people would have blown their asses out of this country a long time ago. Right. We just gonna mass exodus out this motherfucker. We out. We gonna build an airport in every black city in America, and all you gotta do is get there, and we'll fly you without this bitch. There was no telling what would have happened. They couldn't risk it, dog. Right on. Jealousy, fear of the unknown, maybe, but they weren't scared of black people. Listen, the only reason why they're even sort of kind of afraid of you is because they know who you are. They know who you are. They know that you ain't no African. Okay? They know this. Right on? They know this. They know you ain't no African. How is that? That's what I'm saying. They know you're not the people they're calling you. They know you're not African so much so, right, that for years and years and years, they never called you no African American. Called you Negroes and blacks and colors. For those of you who don't know that, my grandmother, on her birth certificate, because she was born in Alabama, her race the letter on it is a C, and the C stands for color. So their fear of us getting financial freedom from them, I don't think they're afraid of that. I think they were more afraid. If black people knew who they were back then, I think that would have been a really good reason to be afraid of them. But none of them knew. You know, and the few who might have been hooping and hollering, we're Israelites, were looking at people like, no, those white Jewish guys are Israelites. You see what I'm saying? So, this is the point. We've been here long enough to see what the fuck it is that they're up to. We've been here long enough to see what they've benefited. They've benefited. They've benefited. Their 1,000 years of peace is almost up, and their so-called battle with Satan is about to kick off. I can't wait. I can't wait till Babylon, aka White Heaven, finally gets what it has coming to it, when every nation in the world converges on this bitch, which is how it's written. Which is how it's written. And only this nation, right now as it stands, probably houses all other people from every other nation. So they don't have to invade anywhere. They're already here, dog. They're already here. Okay? I don't have the exact, what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's not that I'm not inclined, but I don't have the right motivation to focus on something like that. It doesn't bother that, because that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is if black people really do believe, well, what is it that they believe? Do they believe that the Most High God created everything himself? And that out of creating everything, he created beings that have power, that are beyond explanation? You know? It's just something to think about. Bro, even if that, look, I think that could be to keep people in. But if you just wanted to extend the borders just to say that you're still in our territory, so even if you left the so-called U.S. and was 100 miles to whatever direction, however that would have worked out, you're still in our territory, so that ass still belongs to us. You see what I'm saying? While you're here, while I'm here, we belong to their system, bro. Doesn't mean that we've given in and capitulated to it, but we are in their system. We're stuck. We've been, just like when I first dropped this shit about White Heaven. We've been here, bro. We've been in White Heaven. Look. Is that a white girl right there? Don't block her, nobody. Don't block her. I'm about to ask Miss Megan a couple of questions. Megan, question. Does your family have anybody that has ever inherited anything ever at any time? If so, how many generations of people can you name? If you can name more than 5, I can't name 5 people in my family, right on, who've inherited anything. So if you can name 5 in your family and still cry wolf about white people being so disenfranchised in their own country, you got me beat, baby. You got me beat, because I'm just trying to figure out, how do you inherit something if you're poor? There have been hillbillies, trailer park hillbillies, who held on to keepsakes for their families for generations and generations, and still have those keepsakes. While it may be worthless, it's still a keepsake that somebody passed down. To us? No. Please. Your people's rapture took place 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, 118 years ago. And they were building, it was a slow rapture. It was a slow one. Really, I could argue from the time that slavery started till they actually implemented the fucking Jim Crow law. I could argue that your rapture was a fucking almost a 400-year rapture, dog, a 300-year rapture. It took forever for it to really play out. Took forever. Took forever. And they're not happy with the results. They're not happy for some odd reason. I don't get it. They have grocery markets everywhere. I mean, they killed off all the buffalo and any other animals that they thought could feed the indigenous people. They've all but destroyed most of the land in the U.S. So farming on a level of communal standards has been all but destroyed. There's so many different things I could say that white people have done in white heaven. Right. It wasn't until the advent, the crescendo of the Industrial Revolution, right on, that these people were even able to do most of the damn damage that they've done to the country. And let me tell you why the fucking Dust Bowl happened. The Dust Bowl happened because those dirty-ass bastard white people tricked and made those black fucking sharecroppers believe that if they worked and busted their asses, that they were going to take them with them to that place. And they didn't, and they left those black people. And then what did they get in return? Fucking Dust Bowl. That's their own fault. That's their own fault. Turned the land, poorly irrigated it. They're not husbandmen at all. The same people who helped them keep their land were the same people who should have been there to help them turn the land properly. That never happened. Never happened. These people are pathetic. You know what I'm saying? Look, I don't know how she got here. Right on. I don't know where she came from. But this is the whole point, though. They can't take it. Right? They're sore fucking winners. Right? And they're even worse losers. They can't take it. They really can't. She couldn't take that I just told her something honest just then. And she didn't even answer the question. She came in here, answered the question, asked one. I answered it. I said, no, it already happened. Then I asked one myself. But she didn't have the forward initiative to give me at least the gratification that I asked her something. Right on? These people, man, this is how they get down, though. This is their operational, not just standards, but this is like, that's how they manifest themselves, right? They don't, that hurt her. That hurt her. For her to see that, for the few of them who might come in here and actually try to watch the video later, because it comes up, white heaven, and they want to thumbs down the bitch, that's okay. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Because I know for a fact that, once again, there's a bunch of poor white trash who can tell you about things that were passed down in their families while their families have been in white heaven. Right. So we've had, let's say, 1900 till 2018, 118 years. I'm going to say a generation is every 20 years, so there's been 6, maybe 7 generations of people, right? You can argue that there's been more or less for certain bloodlines and families, but we'll go with 6 or 7 generations. Follow me. There have been 6 or 7 generations of people living in white heaven. Now, those who were born in the apex of white heaven, this would have been right before the Great Depression, right after World War I, right on the Roaring 20s, the Golden Age. That's why it's called that, y'all. Okay, because even a poor, dirty, dusty white guy, right, had it good. You could make. There was so much money to be made doing all kinds of nonsense back then. Why do you think most of them went poor and went broke during the Depression? Because a lot of them had fucking felonious-ass jobs in the first place. Bullshit-ass jobs in the first place. I laugh. So all I can do is laugh. I mean, yes, that's all I can do is and laugh and smile because the rapture took place so long ago that I don't know. I can't really say when. Can't really say when. Can't really say how long ago for sure. But I know it was a long time ago. I know it was 100 years ago at least. And they've been living in white heaven ever since. Any white man who lived before, once again, any white man who lived before 1900, right? If he was able to come here now and see the conditions of the country, the only thing that they would have an issue about is how they've allowed the other subgroups of non-blacks to assert themselves. The fall of white heaven is going to be because they're worried about black people and what black people are always doing, and not merely worried about these other groups who are slowly but surely siphoning resources and power from white heaven. The broad walls of Babylon, can you dig it? Are going to come down. Let me just read that to y'all real quick before I get ready to leave it about. La 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 la, la 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 la. I am looking for the high gates, or the broad walls and the high gates. I'm just looking for it. I know I'm close. Oh my goodness. One moment. Oh my goodness. Why am I not coming to it, y'all? And I'm probably looking right over it like I do all the time. You know what? Bump all that. I can settle with this in chapter 51. Verse 1 to maybe 4. Maybe 4. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will rise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And I will send unto Babylon banners, and they shall ban her, and shall empty her land. For the day of trouble, they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth, let the arrow bend his bow. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. And against him that lifteth up in his brigadine, and spare ye not her young men. Destroy ye utterly all her hosts. I'm not going to read the part about the Chaldeans because that doesn't matter. Nobody's going to believe me anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway. The Most High, when he does what he's going to do, right? See, because that wind that's going to get sent here, if a place is on fire, right, and the fire's already, like, pretty good, wind doesn't help you, hurt you a lot. The oxygen just makes the fire much stronger. I don't know, might make your toil a vain one. Just saying. They that dwell in the midst of those that are against the Most High. He didn't say this Babylon, he said those that dwell in the midst of those that are against the Most High. Come on. We have brothers and sisters who will listen to these types of things, and they will argue with us up and down. They'll tell you that there's no such thing as white heaven. They'll say white supremacy is real. White heaven? No. So, since this isn't white heaven to them, their white supremacy doesn't exist. It's not real. Because in white heaven, you wouldn't need to be supreme. This is yours. By default, I'm the winner. Did y'all who think that that's not true are blacks. That's it. They're the only group I really do believe. Some Asians will keep it 1,000. Some Asians and some Indians will keep it 100. The Hispanics are kind of quiet about it because they low-key want to be white people. But only people who really just like all-out fight the front are niggas, blacks, Negroes, you know? And before I end, I'm going to end on this note. I know what note I'm going to end on. Been seeing all this bullshit about people crying about the blackface and this, that, and all this. I could give a fuck. I'm going to pull up a picture or something that I know y'all ain't never seen. Some of y'all know what it is. Some of y'all don't. Bam. The gollywog. One moment, don't worry. I just gotta get to my little thing. Share it. So, as y'all can see my little gollywog friend over there. This is where blackface comes from. This shit, right here. See, White Heaven has allowed for White Heaven UK. Obviously, they kicked them on out. We're going to read them real quick. We're going to read a little bit about the young gollywog while we're still here. Can you dig it? So check it out. The gollywog courage. Here we copy. Gollywog. Originally spelled gollywog, 2 G's, is the least known of the major anti-black caricatures in the United States. Gollywogs are grotesque creatures with very dark and often jet black skin, large white-rimmed eyes, red or white clown lips, wild, frizzy hair. Typically, it's a male dressed in a jacket, trousers, bow tie, and stand-up collar and a combination of red, white, blue, and occasionally yellow colors. The gollywog image, popular in England and other European countries, is found in a variety of items, including postcards, jam jars, paperweights, brooches, wallets, perfume bottles, wooden puzzles, sheet music, wallpaper, pottery, jewelry, greeting cards, clocks, and dolls. For the past 4 decades, Europeans have debated whether the gollywog is a lovable icon or a racist symbol. The gollywog began life as a storybook character created by Florence K. Upton. Upton was born in 1873 in Flushing, New York, to English parents who had immigrated to the U.S. in 1870. She was the second of 4 children. When Upton was 14, her father died, and shortly thereafter, the family returned to England. For several years, she honed her skills as an artist. Unable to afford art school, Upton illustrated her own children's books in the hope of raising tuition money. Now listen, she made racist-ass books to sell to white people so that way she could make some money. Let's read it. Let's keep it pushing. In 1895, her book entitled The Adventures of 2 Dutch Dogs was published in London. Upton drew the illustrations, and her mother, Bertha Upton, wrote the accompanying verse. The book's main character were 2 Dutch dolls, Peg and Sarah Jane, and the gollywog. The story begins with Peg and Sarah Jane on the loose in a toy shop, encountering a horrid sight, the blackest gnome. The little black gnome wore bright red trousers and a red bow tie on a high-colored white shirt and a blue swallowtail coat. He was a caricature of the black-faced minstrel. In effect, the caricature of a caricature. She named him Gollywog. The Gollywog was based on the black minstrel doll that Upton used, that Upton had played with as a child in New York. The then nameless Negro minstrel doll was treated roughly by the Upton children. Upton reminisced seated upon a flower cart in the garden. His kindly face was a target for rubber balls. The game was to knock him over backwards. It pains me to think of those little rag legs flying ignominiously over his head. Yet that was a long time ago, before he had become a personality. We knew that he was ugly. Now I want y'all to understand something. This is a well-dressed, dark-skinned black person with a monkey suit. This is the monkey suit, okay? Anyway, Upton's Gollywog character, like the ragdoll which inspired it, was ugly. He was often drawn with paws instead of hands and feet, and he had a cold black face, thick lips, wide eyes, and a mass of long, unruly hair. He had a cross between a dwarf-sized black minstrel. He was a cross between a dwarf-sized minstrel and an animal. The appearance was distorted and frightening. Florence's ugly little creation was embraced by the English public. What was embraced by the English public? Not good. Give me 1 second. I gotta just go ahead and calm down. The Adventures of Two Dutch Dolls was immensely popular in England, and the Gollywog became a national star. The second printing was retitled The Adventures of Two Dutch Dolls and the Gollywog. For the next 14 years, Bertha and Florence Upton created 12 more books featuring the Gollywog and his adventures, traveling to such exotic places as Africa and the North Pole, accompanied by his friends, the Dutch Dolls. So this is a black dude who was fucking white bitches way back then, but we're not even going to get carried away in that. In those books, the Uptons put the Gollywog first in every title, because the racist white people wanted to see what they was up to. The Uptons did not copyright the Gollywog, and the image entered into the public domain. The Gollywog name was changed to Gollywog, and he became a common Toyland character in children's books. Upton's Gollywog was adventurous and sometimes silly, but in the main, gallant and lovable, albeit unsightly. Later Gollywogs were often unkind, mean-spirited, and even more visually hideous. Earliest Gollywogs were ragdolls made by parents for their children. Many thousands were made during the earliest 20th century. Many prominent doll manufacturers began producing Gollywog dolls. The major Gollywog producers were Steve, Schuko, and Levin, all three German companies, and Mary Tata, and the Beans, both from Great Britain. A couple more motherfucking racist companies. The Steve company, or Stipe company, is the most notable maker of the Gollywog doll. The Stipe became the first company to mass produce and distribute Gollywog dolls. Today, these early Stipe dolls sell for $10,000 to $15,000 each, making them the most expensive Gollywog collectibles. Some Stipe Gollywogs have been especially offensive. For example, in the 1970s, they produced a Gollywog that looked like a woolly-haired gorilla. In 1995, the 100th anniversary of the Gollywog creation, Stipe produced 2 more Gollywog dolls, introduced the company's first Gollywog girl. James Robertson and Sons, a British manufacturer of gems and preserves, began using the Gollywog as its trademark in the early 1900s. Once again, I need y'all to understand, if y'all look at the fucking years that I've been talking about White Heaven and put this shit together, you will see I'm not stripping, but we're going to keep it pushing. James Robertson and Sons, a British manufacturer of jams and preserves, began using the Gollywog as its trademark in the early 1900s. According to the company's promotional literature, it was in the United States just before World War I that John Robertson, the owner's first son, first encountered the Golly doll. He saw rural children playing with the little black rag dolls with white eyes. The children's mothers made dolls from discarded black skirts and blouses. John Robertson claimed that these children called the dolls Gollies, a mispronunciation of Dolly. He returned to England with the name Jolly, name and image. I don't know if he means Jolly or Dolly, but I'm going to go with Golly. I'm not going to call it Jolly. And by 1910, the Golly appeared in Robertson's product labels, price lists, and advertising material. Its appeal led to an enormously popular mail away campaign in return for coupons for their marmalade. Wow! Robertson sent brooches, also called pins or badges, of Gollies playing various sports. The first brooch was the Golly Golfer in 1928. Gollies through history. In 1932, a series of fruit badges, which Golly heads superimposed onto the berries. With Golly heads superimposed onto the berries were distributed. In 1939, the popular brooch series was discontinued because the metal was needed for the war effort. But by 1946, the Golly returned. Come on, man, y'all will not follow this. In 1999, a Robinson spokesperson said he's still very popular. Each year we get more than 340,000 requests for Golly bags. Since 1910, we have sent out more than 20 million. The Robinson Golly has also appeared on pencils, knitting platforms, playing cards, aprons, and children's silverware sets. Robertson's pendant chains were also introduced in 1956, and soon after, the design of Robertson Gollies changed from the old Golly with pop eyes to the present Golly with eyes looking to the left. The words golden shred were removed from his waistcoat, his eyes were straightened, and his smile was broadened. And there's even more. So I'm guessing this was the other one, or the new one. I'm not sure. Can't really tell. It all looks crazy to me. During the first half of the 20th century, the Gollywog doll was a favorite children's soft toy in Europe. Only the teddy bear exceeded the Gollywog in popularity. Small children slept with their black dolls. Many white Europeans still speak with nostalgic sentiment about their childhood dollies. Sir Kenneth Clark, the noted art historian, claimed that the Gollywogs of his childhood were examples of chivalry, far more persuasive than unconvincing knights of Arthurian legend. The French composer Claude Debussy was so enthralled by the Gollywogs in his daughter's book that one movement of the children's quarter suite is entitled The Gollywog's Cakewalk. The Gollywog was a mixture of bravery, adventurousness, and love for white children. In the 1960s, relations between blacks and whites in England were often characterized by conflict. This racial antagonism resulted from many factors, including the arrival of increasing numbers of colored immigrants, minorities unwilling to accommodate themselves to old pattern of racial and ethnic subordination, and the fear among whites that England was losing its national character. British culture was also influenced by images, often brutal or racial conflicts occurring in the United States. In this climate, the Gollywog doll and other Gollywog emblems were seen as symbols of racial insensitivity. Many books containing Gollywogs were withdrawn from public libraries, and the manufacturing of Gollywog dolls dwindled as the demand decreased. Many items within Gollywog items were destroyed. Despite much criticism, James Robertson and Sons did not discontinue its use of the Gollywog as a mascot. The Camden Committee for Community Relations led a petition drive for signatures to send to the Robinson Company. The National Committee on Racism and Children's Book also publicly criticized Robinson's use of the Golly in its advertising. One moment. Other organizations called for a boycott of Robinson's product. Nevertheless, the company has continued to use the Golly as its trademarks in many countries, including the UK, although it was removed from Robinson's packaging in the United States, Canada, and Hong Kong. In many ways, the campaign to ban Gollywogs was similar to the American campaign against Little Black Sambo. In both cases, racial minorities and sympathetic whites argue that these images demean and hurt the psyches of minority children. Civil rights organizations led both campaigns, and white civic and political leaders eventually joined the effort to ban the offensive caricature. The anti-Gollywog campaign, numerous British parliamentarians publicly lambasted the Gollywog image as racist, including Tony Benn, Shirley Williams, and Danny Owen. The fact that Gollywogs are racist is supported by the literary depictions by writers such as Enid Blyton. Unlike Florence's Upton, Blyton's Gollywogs were often rude, mischievous,
elfin villains. In Blyton's book, Here Comes Naughty Again, a gollywog asks the hero for help, then steals his car. Blyton, one of the most prolific European writers, included the gollywog in many stories. But she only wrote 3 books primarily about the gollywog. The Three Gollywogs, the Proud Gollywog, and the Gollywog Grumble. Her depictions of gollywogs are, by contemporary standards, racially insensitive. An excerpt from the Three Gollywogs is illustrative. Once the 3 bold gollywogs, Golly, Wally, and Nigger, decided to go for a walk to Bumblebee Common. Golly wasn't ready, so Woggy and Nigger said that they would start off without him, and Golly would catch them up as soon as he could. So went off Woggy and Nigger arm in arm, singing merrily their favorite song, which was, as you may guess, 10 Little Nigger Boys. Wow. If this shit isn't white heaven, I don't know what is, dog. Let me keep reading, because we got to get through all the rest of it. 10 Little Niggers is the name of a children's poem, sometimes set to music, which celebrates the death of 10 black children, one by one. The Three Gollywogs was represented as recently as 1968. Was reprinted as recently as 1968. And it still contains the above passage. The 10 Little Niggers was also the name of Agatha Christie novel, whose cover showed a gollywog lynch hanging from a noose. God damn. Gollywog's reputation and popularity was also hurt by the association with the word wog. Apparently derived from the word gollywog, wog is an English slur against dark-skinned people, especially Middle East or Far Eastern foreigners. During World War II, the word wog was used by the British Army in North Africa, mainly a slur used against dark-skinned Arabs. In 1960s, Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, one of the most noted regiments of the British Army, wore Robertson's golly brooch for each Arab they had killed. And there's even more. Golly. Damn. After the war, wog became a more general slur against brown-skinned people. As a racial epithet, it is comparable to nigger or spirit. Ain't no word comparable to nigger. Stop. Though its usage extends beyond any simple ethnic group, dark-skinned people in England, Germany, and Australia are derisively called wogs. In the year 2000, a British police officer was fired for referring to an Asian colleague as a wog. British policeman in 2000. The association of wog with racial minorities is also seen with the word wog box, which is slang for a large portable music box, the European counterpart of the ghetto blaster. The wog box is also called the third world briefcase. It cold, man. Some gollywog supporters tried to distance themselves from the wog slur by dropping it from the word gollywog. James Robertson and Sons, for example, have referred to its gollywog as golly. In the late 1980s, when the anti-gollywog campaign reached its height, many small manufacturers of the gollywog began using the name golly or golly instead of gollywog. Not surprising, the words gollywog, golly, and golly are all now used as racially descriptive terms, although they are not as demeaning as wog. How? I don't know. That's crazy. Gollywog, I guess because the gollywog is an actual character, and the word wog is just a derivative of it, really, because they said that it came about in World War II, and it's not mentioned before that. Gollywog is a racial slur in Germany, England, Ireland, Greece, and Australia. Interestingly, it is sometimes applied to dark-skinned whites, as well as brown-skinned persons. Gollywog is a common name for black pets, especially dogs. In European countries, much as nigger was once popular as a pet name. Wow! Gollywog, also the original name for the rock band Creedence Clearwater Revival. Did y'all hear that? Gollywog was the original name of the rock band Creedence Clearwater Revival. Wow. That's fucking crazy. I think they are the ones who did that song, the one that Tina Turner did, what is it, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, what is it, oh my goodness, is it? Maybe, I'm not sure, I don't remember. Oh, man. Anyway. Probably Primary, pretty sure it is. Anyway, they sometimes perform the song Brown Eyed Girl. Right. Not the Van Morrison tunes dressed in white afro. This is not to suggest that they were racist, only to show that gollywogs were a part, albeit a small one, in American culture. The Gollywog celebrated its 100-year anniversary in 1995. Gollywog collectibles, which had always had a loyal following, again boomed on the secondary market. Popularity continued today, and is evidenced by numerous eBay and Yahoo internet auctions and the presence of several international Gollywog organizations. A pro-Gollywog viewpoint can be found on their website right there. Many collectors, primarily though, not exclusively whites, contend that the anti-Gollywog movement represents political correctness at its worst. They argue that the Gollywog is just a doll, and that the original Florence Upton creation was not racist, intentionally or unintentionally. This is reminiscent of the claims about Helen Bannerman's Little Black Samba. On this website, you can read that on this website for a more in-depth discussion of Little Black Samba. We'll go into Little Black Samba some other day. Critics of the Gollywog have launched a new attack. They are trying to get the image removed from all newly published children's books, and they are trying to force businesses not to use the Gollywog as a trademark. The Black Trinidadian writer, Darkest Howe, said English, or Howie, depends on how his name is spelled, said English, white people never give up. Gollywogs have gone and should stay gone. They appeal to white English sentiment and will do so until the end of time. Gary German of the Working Group Against Racism and Children's Resources was quoted in the Voice, a black newspaper, as saying, "I find it appalling that any organization in this day and age can produce anything that would commemorate the Gollywog. It is an offensive caricature of black people." The Gollywog was created during a racist era. He was drawn as a caricature of a minstrel, which itself represented a demeaning image of blacks. There is racial stereotypes of black people in Florence Upton's books, including The Adventure of Two Dutch Dogs, such as the black minstrel playing a banjo on page 45. It appears that Gollywog was another expression of Upton's racial insensitivity. Certainly later, Gollywogs often reflected negative beliefs about blacks, thieves, miscreants, and competence. There is little doubt that the word associated with Gollywog, Gollywog, and Gollywog itself are often used as racial slurs. Finally, the resurgence of the Gollywog is not found primarily among children, but instead is found among adults, some nostalgic, others with financial interest. We're not going to read all these things. These are just his works cited. Stop sharing. Damn. Oh my goodness, that took forever. So, if you stuck around for that and heard that, all of that, it's not about who cares. It's about you have to know what it is that they're actually doing that stuff for, right on? And then you have to understand how that plays into interracial relationships. See, I can't even break off into everything that I want to break off into. You see what I'm saying? Because I'd have to do a whole other talking about it. Like those other subjects take their own days, you know. But if I just had to hit it in short, sister, it's not about you caring, it's about you knowing. And knowing and caring are not the same thing. And you and I both know this. may you have a good evening. You know? May everything be good for you, bro. You know? Straight up. And all of it is always amazing that they don't talk about this shit straight up, face to face. But did y'all see how over there in Britain, up until 1955, fuck 1968, they were still putting the word nigger in books? That's not white heaven? Come on, man. Fuck out of here. Anyway, black people, I have had such a good time delivering what I believe is they think I'm insane for talking. But I'm sensible. I think this is sensible. I think this was one of those things where I'm glad that nobody came in here trying to get me all drawn off track, because I talked about most of the things I wanted to talk about. I think the only thing I didn't talk about from the book of White Trash, there was 5 things I wanted to speak on in that book. One thing I wanted to talk about really, and I'm going to touch on it real quick, because it has to do with genetics, so look forward to the genetic stuff coming. The study of eugenics is only possible through Gregor Mendel. I'm just saying. Oh, I don't. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's a matter of knowing. You get what I'm saying though? Like, you get me? Like, it was influenced by blackface, but this is way bigger. The gollywog is why there's blackface over there. The gollywog is he is the reason for blackface. Can you dig it? You know what I'm saying? You know. No, and blackface is way before. I need y'all to understand where it comes from. You feel me? It's not about none of that. Because if you don't know where it comes from, you really don't stand on shit. You don't have nothing to stand on. So you have to know that, so that way, if a person's talking that bullshit, you could be like, look, bro, blackface comes from a racist-ass little black dog. You know what I'm saying? The whole start of blackface, the whole movement to it is racist. There's nothing not racist about it. The fact that black people can't grasp the fact that white people in Europe used to name their dogs nigger. Fuck out of here. That's white heaven. That's the other. Look, I didn't say white heaven ended in America. I just said that this is where it's popping at. It's right here. The other little part of white heaven, that little ass island over there, not so much worried about it, because they would have never got away with the shit. They did racist stuff over there in the UK and in Britain, but they would have never been able to do to the blacks there what the blacks had done to them here. Never. 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 And I know that I'm living in a fucking land where the rapture already took place, where I can read about people who used to name their dogs after a racial slur. You gotta be in a heaven for people like that. This has to be their heaven. It can't be something else. This is the white man's heaven. So invariably, black man and black woman, it is your hell. But you better find shade somewhere, because there is no fucking cold glass of water coming anytime soon. I mean, we better, like, we're better off. Once again, we're better off just being totally divested, uninvested into all this shit that's going on. You can still try to get a business started. You can still try to do a bunch of shit, but be totally, don't invest yourself into that shit. All right? Put the energy forth that it needs to take for it to manifest itself. But if something were to happen to that business or something were to happen, just move on, move over. Get over it. Get over it. If there's one thing I've learned in the situation where my son's mother kidnapped my son, right? The one thing I've learned about this kidnapping is like, yeah, Meech, I could have did. I'm like, yeah, Meech, you could have did all this stuff with your money before and tried to do this and tried to do that, but I'm like, that's gonna cost me. And people are like, your son's not worth that. I'm like, he is, but is he worth me struggling right now and I don't have him? No. Out of your fucking mind. I'm a realist. I don't live in la la land. I live in right here and right now. And right here and right now, I need me more than he needs. That's a fact. So he has, there's a support structure for little Zachariah. I don't have that. So until people can learn to get over the things that bother them the most and put that shit behind them every time it happens, they're never going to be able to do nothing. So I totally agree that, you know what I'm saying, you shouldn't be upset at blackface or whatever, but you should be aware of everything you can about something like that. Because to say that, in essence, they take those kind of statements where we say, well, I don't really care, and then they try to use that against us, where they're like, well, how racist is it if they don't care? See what I'm saying? It's still fucking racist. You dig it? So you have to call it out for what it is while you're seeing it, and then go from there. But if we don't even give that to them, right, we have nothing. We have nothing. If I didn't tell the courts, the last time I seen the one little white judge do, hey, everybody I've been dealing with is a racist, including this cop that I'm looking at right here, this, that, and the other, they would never know that I felt that. They got that finally at a point in junction where I saw that what you call justice was not about to be written. You know, I allow for the system to play, I will allow for something to play itself out all the way. I'm not going to act a fool because I don't think you're going to do what I want you to do for me. No, what I'm going to do is see if you're going to do what your rules that are established and written say. And if you go against those, now I have a fucking issue. Because either those are the rules or they aren't, bro. And then tell me that those don't apply to me. Well, tell me what does apply to me. So I have to follow all of these and abide by all of these. But I'm not subject to the positive consequences and rewards of what they may yield if someone else does these things to me. It's fuck crazy. I'm saying all that to end on this note, and I'm done. Everybody talks about in the land where the land is stolen, there has never been justice. I'd argue this, and I heard an older man say on a channel I was listening to the other day, and it was a very wise statement. And I don't know where he got it from. He got it from somebody, unless he thought it of himself. But he said, if there is one injustice in the world, one, there is no justice. Can you dig that, black people? If there is one injustice in the world, there is no justice. White heaven was built on injustice. Therefore, there will be no justice. As long as you can accept that their rapture was their criminal activity that led to the creation of this land, that is their rapture, y'all. I need y'all to understand it. That was their rapture. It already took place. And right now we're in white heaven. And their so-called 1,000-year whatever of peace is about to come to an end. And an abrupt halt. And with that said, everybody, I appreciate all your time. You know I do. Salute you. Much love. And everybody have a blessed rest of the week. Look forward to whatever I do or don't drop. I got a lot going on. I still have bills and rent to pay. And I still don't have a job yet. And I've been able, to skate by here and there. Because the Most High has been so gracious. But I have to worry about employment and gainful employment at that, so that way I can continue to produce stuff for you guys, But that's been one of my primary focuses lately, is to make sure that I have gainful employment, so that way I can continue to focus on the things that I want to focus on. However, thank you so much. Have a blessed day.